Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for attending the retirement webinar. I'm Kerry Facer, and with me is Justin Rucci. Justin, you're there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good. Hey, Justin, you just introduce yourself, would you?
Sure. So my name is Justin Rucci. I'm a certified financial planner and wealth advisor at Warren Street. And in today's retirement webinar, I'm going to be covering a lot of the financial planning centric slides.
Perfect. So, disclosures, if for anybody wants a copy of our ADV, you can just call 714-876-6200 and get a copy of that. Today, our steps for a successful retirement workshop. One, obviously you're here attending the webinar. Two, we're going to go over the retirement handbook. We want to talk about the common roadblocks as well. We're going to learn some of the basic investing tips. We want to build your vision for retirement and complete the retirement toolkit. And then Justin has a little quick calculation you can do at the end to calculate your score. Then you're going to want to decide if you can do this yourself or hire a pro. And finally, retire and enjoy that all life has to offer. Little comic strip here. It says, we're in a recession, maybe a smart time to buy. Buy, are you leaving? Did she get fired? Layoffs, this is so depressing. Depression, we're in a depression, sell, sell. We see this all the time. It's water cooler talk, and specifically for ticker symbol CVX, Chevron stock. You might hear one thing from a friend, and who knows how many times it's been passed around, and by the time you make a decision, it could be too soon, too late. So please don't make a decision to buy or sell stock on water cooler talk or telephone. In the invitation today, we talked about attending this event and what would be covered. So we're going to jump right into it. Our team today with us on this call is Justin D. Rucci, certified financial planner. He's joining me. And I'm there on the left, one of the founding partners here at Warren Street Wealth Advisors. And on the far right there is Lynn Hanson. Lynn Hanson, if you have any questions specifically from the Segundo refinery, Lynn works in our LA office over at the Towers in the 222 PCH building. Lynn worked for Chevron for many, many years. And if you have questions about benefits, retirement, 401k options, all of those things that this webinar will cover, that is the person to talk to at the end, and we'll make his information available to you. And then in the bottom left there, of course, just give us a call if you have any questions. Lynn got us all into the coker plant. That is the, no, I'm just kidding. That's not the actual coker plant, but Lynn thought that was funny. That is our team there. So let's begin. So steps for a successful retirement. You're here today attending the webinar. So step 2 is going to be read the retirement handbook. So without further ado, Justin, you want to jump into the retirement handbook?
Sure. So this handbook is something that we have in both PDF and paper format. So in addition to this recording of the webinar, you'll also have the ability to get a copy of this either digitally or on paper as a reference. But I'm just going to walk through the steps and add a little bit of color commentary on each. So the first two are just making sure that you have a plan. It probably goes without saying that this is the first step you want to take as you start beginning to think about retirement. Number 3 is make sure your retirement timing is correct. And so in the case of the refinery specifically, we see a lot of individuals retire at the end of Q1 of a new calendar year. And what they'll do is they'll use their U time, their PTO, to bridge them essentially from the beginning of the year, sometimes around Christmas time, to the end of the first quarter. That makes sure you're able to take advantage of those payouts as well as get a prorated bonus for the new calendar year and then kind of start your retirement fresh in the new calendar year. So it varies person by person, but just making sure your timing is correct is an important step. Number 4 is for individuals that are looking to retire early. This has been coming up a lot recently, is just because the IRS mandates a retirement age for distributions to be 59 and a half does not mean that there are steps and planning that can be done to work around that. So if you're looking to retire, we have individuals retire at 55 and different ages sometimes. So the main point of this one is just know that there are ways to work around that. And if you wanted to retire prior to 59 and a half, it is potentially doable. Number 5 is budgeting for medical expenses. And so this is one that gets forgotten a lot because it comes directly out of your paycheck today. So you're not necessarily thinking about that as a cost. You're just looking at your net pay that's deposited. But in retirement, that changes. Medical expense becomes a budget line item, and it's something that you're paying after getting paid. And so adding that back into your assumed budget is an important step on planning for retirement. Number 6, say goodbye to credit card debt. Again, this one probably goes without saying. We want to try and clean up your balance sheet as much as we can prior to retiring. So if there's debt on the balance sheet, trying to get that reduced or eliminated as much as possible so that you're starting retirement with a fresh slate. Number 7 is build up 6 months worth of emergency savings. So this is based on just the ability and flexibility to have cash on hand should you need it in an unexpected expense or emergency. Just have a little bit of cash on hand to be able to float you so you're not relying 100% on your portfolio. Number 8 is building and keeping a budget. If I had to pick one item on the list that's probably the most important in beginning retirement planning, it's probably this one, because what you spend and what your expenses are can make or break your retirement plan. And most individuals don't keep a budget on a regular basis. So just getting a grasp on what your spending is going to be an important step in starting to plan. Number 9, weigh all your options on Social Security. The soonest you can take Social Security is age 62. Doesn't mean you have to take it at 62. You can actually wait all the way until age 70 if you wanted to. Most people's full retirement age is anywhere between 66 and 67, where you get your full benefit. You get additional credits the longer you wait. The main point of this bullet is just don't make this decision lightly. It can make a big difference in your overall retirement picture, and it's something that we help our clients with. And so you don't have to make that decision alone. We're able to weigh all your options and talk some numbers on that. And number 10 here, invest for retirement. This is making sure you're taking advantage of the vehicles you have in your wheelhouse or available to you, such as your 401k. You're keeping your investments diversified. You're not 100% in company stock, and you're just being smart about your investments. You're putting this away as much as you can, and you're doing so in a tax-efficient manner. Now that we covered the handbook, we're going to talk about some common roadblocks that we see people run into. The first one I already kind of covered, which is just failure to plan. And it really goes along with number 5 on this list too, which is procrastinating. And we see this frequently. If you're not failing to plan altogether, then you're probably procrastinating having to plan. That's very common. Number 2 here is lack of financial knowledge. This is all stuff that you don't necessarily learn at work, you don't learn in school. And so being here is a good start in getting educated on this stuff. Number 3 is rising prices or inflation. Tends to get forgotten that costs do not stay the same. We look at what housing or food or gas cost 10 years ago versus what it costs today. We need to make sure that we're planning for costs increasing throughout our retirement timeline. It's one of the many things we factor into our clients' plans. And number 4 is tax burden. Just because you are retired does not mean taxes are going away. So you will still have some taxes in retirement, so making sure you're planning for that accordingly is naturally going to be an important step. So now let's go through some basic investing tips. So we did basically 6 things that you want to keep in mind when trying to set up your investments, including your 401k. The first one is save. This is the one thing that you probably have the most control over, and it's how much you put away each month and how much you put away each paycheck. And it's also the one thing that makes the most difference in your overall retirement plan. Many people like to focus on investment returns, which is important, but how much you put away is much more important. Number 2, ability and willingness to take risks. So this means not just putting money away, but investing that money. Don't just stick the money under the mattress, but be willing to take smart risks and risks that are in line with your time horizon and comfort level and all of that. Number 3 is diversification. So we already kind of said, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Don't put everything in company stock. So just having your money spread out among different companies, different industries, different geographic locations is an important step in making sure you're not subject to one particular industry or company's performance. Make the most of the tax code. We're going to get into a little bit more detail on this on the Mega Roth later, but just taking advantage of the vehicles that are available to you from the tax standpoint. And number 5 is rebalance. We see frequently individuals set their 401k up when they first start a job and then don't look at it again. Rebalancing can really help your money grow and is an important step in making sure your investments are being maintained properly. So now we're going to jump into the Mega Backdoor Roth. option on the 401k. So this is going into how to make the most of the tax code. And this is really something that's available at Chevron that for individuals that are interested and can afford to do this is almost a no-brainer. There's a number of different limits on the 401k plan. The one that most people are aware of is the main contribution limit, which for 2020 has increased a little bit. It's $19,500 for individuals under the age of 50, or it's $26,000 a year for individuals age 50 or older. That's the main limit most people are aware of. There's also a total contribution limit of either 57 or 63,500, depending on your age. Which, if you want to switch to the next slide, Carrie, that total contribution limit is made up of pre-tax dollars, Roth dollars, and after-tax dollars, as well as your company match. The difference between after-tax and Roth is where a lot of people tend to get hung up on this, because both contribution types are technically being made on an after-tax basis. But of the two, Roth dollars grow tax-free, where after-tax dollars grow tax-deferred, meaning the earnings are taxable when you take the money out, which is not the case with Roth dollars. So as you can probably figure out, if you have your choice between the two, Roth is the more beneficial option. The thing is, Roth is subject to that $19,500 or $26,000 limit. So after tax should really only be used when your contributions are past that amount and you've already hit that limit. So if we run through an example, we have income of $100,000 a year. This individual is 50 or older. So they hit their $26,000 cap on their pre-tax or Roth contributions. They're getting an $8,000 match from the company. Now, if we subtract those two numbers from the overall limit of $63,500, you get a remaining delta of $29,500. And so that's essentially the amount that you could theoretically contribute in after-tax dollars. And anywhere in between 1 and 29.5, you can contribute in after-tax dollars for additional retirement savings. Now, what you'd want to do with those after-tax dollars is you'd want to convert them to Roth, which you're allowed to do. And instead of having those dollars grow tax deferred and have the earnings be taxable on them, the sooner you can convert them to Roth, the sooner they are growing for you tax-free instead. And so what you can do is convert those dollars to Roth. You do not need to be retirement age to do this. You do not need to leave your employer. You can still be working. You can still be under the age of 59 and a half. You can convert those after-tax dollars to Roth and have it growing tax-free. You want to try and do that as soon as you can, because any growth that occurs between the time you contributed and the time you convert either needs to go into a pre-tax IRA or be paid tax on it at time of conversion. I know there's obviously a lot of moving pieces on this. So this is something big picture wise we do for clients all the time. So if it's something that you're looking to learn more about or potentially do, you can ping us and we can help walk you through the steps on an individual basis. This is an example of what that conversion looks like. So in the example, we have the amount that you contributed in after tax, which is represented as the green on this bar chart, bar graph. And then the growth on those dollars specifically is represented in the blue section. So if you wanted to convert that to Roth and pay zero tax today, the growth will go into a normal IRA, a traditional IRA, and the basis or your contributions will go into the Roth IRA. The earnings will grow tax deferred and will be taxable whenever you withdraw them, and the basis or your contributions will grow tax-free from that day forward. Next section here is steps for successful retirement. So we're going to talk about building what your retirement vision looks like. So I'm going to pass it back to Carrie. He's going to talk a lot about the lifestyle decisions that come along with planning for retirement.
Yeah, we've seen once you realize you have enough money to retire, the mind shifts into a different direction and trying to figure out what to do now with time in this next chapter, next phase of life. And so what we want to talk about is the vision. And so some of the things to be thinking about now, because they'll come up, is once you have clarity that you can retire and you have enough money to retire, what do you want to do with your time and what do you want to do with those resources? So some ideas here: do you want to switch careers, maybe start your own business or consult? One of the things to consider is if you do contract for Chevron, you in essence become a small business owner. So start thinking about those decisions as a business owner: tax planning, retirement planning, setting up accounting and all the legal end that comes with that, and that is something we do assist our clients with as well. Garden, maybe spend more or less time with family or grandkids. How about travel the world or learn a new language? Maybe go back to school. We have one client who went back to school recently, and she's absolutely enjoying the heck out of that. She's in her early 60s and loving it. And there's also a lot of benefits there too, with some uh, uh, assistance to provide free college if you meet the requirements. So going back to school and retirement is something to keep front of mind if that interests you at all. Or perhaps just go back to your church or charity and volunteer more, or rekindle past hobbies. I put in here restore an old car. We see a lot of our clients doing that once they have enough time to do it. Now, where will you live? This is interesting. So I've taken a liking to this topic a lot in the last 6 or 12 months when we're doing our retirement workshops, is where our clients want to be. And so what we want to do is look at some of the data. Where you live now may not be the most cost-effective choice when income becomes more limited. So in the red there, you're going to be the most expensive places to live. No surprise, the LA, Orange County area, almost bright red down there in the lower left. But where you live is important to think about as far as the cost of living. Now, less populated non-coastal areas are typically the most affordable places to live. So no surprise here in the red, you'll see the most expensive metro areas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those in the top 10 are in California. So we see, I think the number last year was about 200,000 people leaving the state of California. 50,000 of those went to the state of Texas. So something to think about with is relationships and weather when you do decide to move and you want to go out of state. Texas, Arizona, Washington, Nevada, Oregon seem to be some of the more popular. Even Idaho seem to be more popular states that we keep hearing about. So cost of living is one thing to consider. So here are the most expensive and then least expensive metro areas. You can see down there in the bottom in blue, maybe some cities that you recognize or are from, and maybe have some weather and relationship connection to that you could stomach the weathers during the weather during the winter, and have relationships where family and friends are nearby. So amenities and lifestyle, but the cost of living and quality of life are very different things. So here was a study by Inc.com, is the 10 best places to live in the US. We just had some clients return from Austin, Texas, who are actually thinking about moving to Austin, Texas. So our team will always advise our clients to travel there first and possibly even live there for 6 or 12 months before selling everything here and moving to one of these new cities. And again, the summertime, springtime is wonderful in most places in the world, and specifically here in the U.S. But take some time and spend a month or two during the winters, because the winters are can be horrendous in some of these places. So Austin, Texas, Colorado Springs, Denver, Des Moines, Fayetteville, Portland. Portland's interesting. Portland, we have a client who just retired and moved to Portland about 3 years ago. Excuse me, they're actually not in Portland. They're in Vancouver, Washington. But what they do, that's in the south side of Washington State. They travel across to Portland, buy all their goods in Portland, Oregon, because in the state of Washington, there's no state income tax, and in Portland, Oregon, or in Oregon, there's no sales tax. So they avoid paying income tax in retirement in the state of Washington, and then they drive south to do all their shopping in Portland. So not a bad idea. Again, it goes back to the weather and relationships. They have family up there. They enjoy the rain, so it works for them. Now, longevity. The good news is everyone's living longer. So if you see here in the graph, life expectancy increasing around the world, at the very top there is North America. This study is from 1960 to 2014, or excuse me, 2016. And you can see everyone seems to be living longer, which is a great problem. But in planning for retirement, we have to build that into our plans and try to figure out, do we have enough money and will it last, well into our 90s? And the world as an average, I mean, the graphs are some changes that happened there in the late 80s, early 90s, but typically all countries on all continents are seeing longer life expectancy. So we do really need to plan around that. And we look at location and lifestyle. The lighter color states are represented as having longer life expectancy in years. So while the state of California is one of the most expensive states to live in, from cost of living and taxes, we do see though that life expectancy is much longer here. And then you can see in those red states there in the South, life expectancy isn't as long. So while the cost of living might be lower, life expectancy for whether it's the food or weather or who knows, um, is shorter in those states. So something to keep in mind as well. Now, steps for a successful retirement. We're going to jump back over. Justin's going to jump into the retirement toolkit. And Justin.
Yes. So the retirement toolkit is another example of a handout and digital copy that we can get out to you for anyone that's interested. And what it's designed to do is essentially take your retirement or financial life and from looking something like this into something a little bit more organized. And so what we'll do is we'll walk through what the retirement toolkit is. It's made up of two main steps. The first one is your net worth scorecard. And what this is, it's basically designed to give you a grasp of laying out all your assets and all your liabilities in one place, and then calculating your net worth based on those two numbers. And so we've created a template with different categories on the common assets that we see and the common liabilities or debts that we see. And the goal is to total up your assets, total up your liabilities, subtract those two numbers, and come up with your overall net worth score. The second step is the retirement budget. And so this is similar. We've created a template with the idea of getting all of your expenses in one easy to analyze place. And so this is designed to spend 15 minutes on, not to get crazy to the penny, but just to get a good idea of what your retirement budget looks like. That helps us figure out whether your retirement timeline makes sense and is doable. And it also just helps you figure out your overall status when it comes to what you have saved, which leads into the next segment here, which is calculating your score. And so this is just kind of a quick ratio test that we came up with to figure out and give people a ballpark number as to where they stand in terms of being able to retire without going through a formal planning process. And so what we'll do here is you take your overall net worth from the net worth scorecard and you divide your annual expenses from that number. So you divide these two numbers and it comes up with a score. And we created some ranges, and it's obviously going to vary based on age and career stage. But we created some ranges of what we consider healthy, depending on what age you're in. And so if you're dividing those two numbers and say you're in the 55 to 65 age range and you're scoring somewhere between a 20 and a 30, that means you're probably in pretty good shape and it's time to deep dive into your specific retirement plan. If you are in that age range and you're scoring much lower than that, then it might mean it's time to start to catch up and start putting some more money away or maybe reduce expenses. So basically just gives you an idea of whether or not you want to dig further into your current situation and how you're doing right now. The number 8 on our initial checklist here from the beginning of things we're going to cover is decide whether you want to try and do this yourself or whether you want to hire a professional for your retirement planning and investment management. So I'm going to pass it back to Kerry. He's going to go over specifics of our process and what we do for our clients.
Yeah, so deciding to hire a pro, the majority of our clients are those who've worked for a Fortune 500 company for 20, 25, 30 years and who are now getting ready to retire and have had a 401k plan or a pension plan that has been essentially provided to them by their employer. So they have to go out now and decide, do I want to continue managing these investments on my own or do I want to hire somebody? And hiring somebody is typically the first time they've ever actually had to pay for a service to have a financial plan built and have professional investment management. And so what we want to do is showcase here what that looks like for our firm and then give you some things to think about when looking at other firms. So our process for financial planning, it's 6 steps. Today is, call it half of number 1. It's established a little bit about who we are and what we do. But then when you actually go through formal established, let's say you sit down with, Lynn and Justin or Lynn and Emily, and you're then allowing yourself an opportunity to discuss who you are, where you are now, where you want to go, and what's getting in the way. and then share, this is, I want to move to, I do want to go to Washington State and drive to Oregon to buy my goods, and I think I need $4,000 a month, and I have this much in my 401k and this much in my pension, and I have this much left on my mortgage. You can start to massage those numbers. Then if you decide to move forward, we go through full discovery, actually all the assets, all the liabilities, cash flow, build a plan, come up with solutions, implement those solutions, and then once those solutions are implemented and you're now nearing retirement or you are retired, we are checking in with you every 90 days, staying up to date on the plan, staying up to date on the investments, and really these are our reviews, and monitor and adapt is number 6, is very, very important. The pile of paperwork you saw earlier that Justin showed is sometimes is what our clients will show up with, the shoebox full of statements, and we want to get things organized so you have everything in one place, can see it quickly. We can even link outside accounts. Not everybody does this, depends on your a comfort level with technology, but we can link outside accounts. Vanguard's plan, you actually used to do this for the Chevron 401k plan, where you could link an account from I don't know, TD Ameritrade or Fidelity and have everything in one place. We can do the same here. It just depends on how serious you want to get and put everything in one place. Once we're done with the plan, the neat thing is to actually go through and adjust 2 variables. Are my favorite thing to do is when you retire and then on how much money. So if you wanted to retire at age 53, but we see maybe the confidence zone in the top right is only in I don't know, the 40% area, and we drag it out 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, trying to get it up in that green zone, you can see quickly, okay, now I understand I have everything built in my plan. If I work 1 more year, this is what that looks like. Or I don't want to work another year, but I'm willing to instead, on that budget tool that Justin mentioned, that you spend 15 minutes on it, you go back and spend an hour on it, find 2 or 3 things to reduce to get the budget down, to get you in the confidence zone. So instead of needing, in this example, $138,000 a year in lifestyle or spending, you might only want to spend $124,000. In this example, it brings it up about 5%. Now, investment management. So when the plan's built and you now understand or have confidence that you can retire and you have enough money, and we need to look at the investment lineup or investment portfolio to match what the plan calls for, it's very important to take a look at where you are today. And many times what we see is a lot of cash or a lot of Chevron stock inside the 401k, or maybe just a lot of US stock only, no fixed income, no bonds. And so we want to get back to a real balanced, diversified portfolio, especially if you're getting close to retirement and you're at the finish line. Why have all your money in Chevron stock when the price, has been so volatile, or it could go down, with bad news in the market, in a single day? So looking at the actual investments that we build for our clients, we have 3 core strategies: a global stock, global bond, and global real asset. Important to note, it's not just U.S. stocks. We have, developed international and emerging market stocks as well. And then on the global bond or the fixed income side, it's U.S. Treasuries, investment grade corporates. We're looking at high yield debt. Even though maybe rates might not be favorable here, we want to look at developed foreign bonds as well, emerging market bonds, to try to find interest rates that are favorable. And like Justin mentioned earlier, be contrarian. So buy things that are out of favor when the time is right. And finally, our third strategy that we do to blend, which is going back here, but up on the top, we can blend your custom portfolio however you want between the 3 strategies. But global real assets, these are our non-correlated, call them diversifiers. We're looking at things like real estate, commodities, natural resources. So in there might be a small position in gold as an example. And of course, our investment principles, and we'll make this all available to you for replay. One thing we're very proud to show is our fees, because we have heard from our clients, they go attend some of these other workshops and webinars, and the financial advisors will not talk about what they're charging, whether or not they even work on commission or if they work on a fee. So Warren Street Wealth Advisors, we are a fee-only firm, or what's called a RIA, or a registered investment advisor, and we do not work on commission. We work as fiduciaries in the client's best interest, and so we hold out our fees. And again, back to the DIY or hiring somebody. So if you want to do it yourself or hire a company, it's very important to understand what you will be paying for these services and what you'll get in return. So at the top here, The first one is 401k assist with the living balance sheet. So if you are, as an example, 45 years old, not ready to retire, but you have maybe all cash or all Chevron stock in your 401k plan, and you want to get your 401k in order to match your plan, what we will do is we'll actually build you an allocation, link it to our client portal so we can see it on a daily basis for you, and monitor it and give you an annual recommendation or update for your 401k plan. And we charge a single fee for that. It's $400. It's good for a year. That's something we're doing for a number of our clients at Chevron today. Now, if you want a comprehensive plan, so you're not ready to retire, and you want us to look at everything. It's all assets, all liabilities, Social Security, taxes, mortgage, the works. That's $1,200. It's for a single year, and that will include the one above, the 401k allocation. So if you want us to have take a look at your 401k and manage that for you, that is included in that $1,200. So for an additional $800, you can get a comprehensive financial plan, and you have us as a subscription for an entire year. So while we can build the plan in probably 60 or 90 days and be done with it, you'll have us for an entire year with that service. Now you have an account, maybe you have after-tax money, you want to do a mega Roth. These are the fees for investment management, or these are the fees that you would pay on anything that we actively manage for you, an account that we actively manage for you. So if you're retired and it's your 401k or your cash balance plan, this would fall in that. If it's today and maybe it's a brokerage account with a few $1,000s, or it's an after-tax account with maybe $20, $30, $40,000, or even the Roth IRA using the Mega Roth, the backdoor Mega Roth strategy, this would apply. Now, most of our clients are referrals. So what we came up with a few years ago was a friends and family referral program, because we wanted to get all of our fees below 1%. That was a goal of ours as an organization. And so what we did is we came up with the Friends and Family 5 program, where you can bundle pricing for up to 5 families. So if you retired with $1 million and you had 4 other people that retired, at any time, we can actually group those accounts for pricing. Only for pricing. There's nobody sees anybody else's account, strictly on the back end of our billing software. So then, as an example, 5 people with $1 million each, that pricing, the effective average pricing, comes down to 0.83%. And we did this actually years ago when we were competing with Vanguard, and their programs were, I think, in the 0.7 range. And so we wanted to come up with a program that could make us very, very competitive with Vanguard. And this is our program here. So for anybody who's listening, who's referred to us by an existing client, this program is available to you. If you're new, you can start your own Friends and Family 5, and then you can refer one person, and this is the fee schedule that you would be on. So there's the items we talked about earlier, all the points. If there's any questions, we'll take questions after the webinar via email. So just send us an email. You can email Len, L-E-N, at warrenstreetwealth.com, or info@warrenstreetwealth.com, all spelled out. And as a quick little bonus before we end here, we have Justin coming back up, who's going to cover how you should handle your ESOP shares.
Yes. So this is another common question that we get, particularly for Chevron, is the difference between both common stock and ESOP stock. So first, before I jump into that difference, I want to just cover the risk of having everything in Chevron stock. And so what a lot of people tend to forget is they're already relying on Chevron for their paycheck, their health insurance, their benefits, their employer match, company contributions, as well as pension benefits, if applicable. So do you really want to have all of those things riding on Chevron, plus what you've put away and what the money you've put away? So that's why we talk about diversification, and we preach that so much. Now, with that behind us, let's go into the differences between the 2 different types of stock. So assuming we want to get diversified, what do we actually need to do? Is first one is you want to try and run a statement, and we do this for individuals all the time, so we can help with this, is figure out what do you have in ESOP versus common shares. And of the 2, there are some tax benefits of maintaining the ESOP shares over the common. So if you're going to reduce your Chevron exposure, you want to leave the ESOP as is and reduce only the common stock shares in your 401k. The ESOP shares are available for a tax strategy called net unrealized appreciation, also known as NUA, which could potentially save you some money in taxes. So you want to leave that door open for potential use when you do leave the company. So here's what the tax advantage of ESOP shares looks like. If you do nothing, or if you sell your ESOP shares and reinvest it in something else while it is still in your 401k, your entire 401k withdrawal at retirement will be taxed as ordinary income, which is what the blue bar graph on the left represents. If you leave the ESOP shares as is and only sell the common shares, you can take advantage of this NUA strategy. And what that does is you pay tax on the cost basis of those shares, which is very low, and you pay capital gains tax on whatever increase you have had. So what we typically see when we're doing this is we'll see very small cost basis that you'll pay ordinary income tax on. So you take a little bit of an upfront tax hit, but you have a much larger chunk of investment growth on that money that you're going to get a tax break on. So it's a little bit of a short-term hit for a longer-term break, because that long-term capital gain tax rate depends on what tax bracket you're in. But for most people, it's 15%, which is lower than their typical marginal tax bracket in many cases. And if your only income is capital gain income, it's possible to even have those withdrawals taxed at 0% on the federal level. So very case by case, but you want to make sure you leave that door open and keep those ESOP shares as is until you leave the company.
So steps for a successful retirement. Thank you, Justin. Finally, retire and enjoy all life has to offer. So this is the part where we have questions. So if you have any questions, please send us an email, info@warrenstreetwealth.com. Or if you want to reach directly out to Lynn Hanson, that's LEN at warrenstreetwealth.com. There is a link there as well, warrenstreetwealth.com. You can go to our website and /schedule, and you can see a list of our team, and you can schedule time with Lynn, Justin, myself, anybody that's available there. The simplest thing to do is just call us at 714-876-6200. And you can also text that number. Eileen does receive text on that number. So if you reach out and just say, hey, I'd like to connect with somebody, she will help find a time for you. Thank you for attending, and thank you for joining us for the retirement planning webinar, oil and gas. And just a quick last minute thing, save the date. We have a Medicare webinar coming up with Jeff White, who's a local expert and only works with Medicare supplement plans and Medicare advice. And we're going to be hosting a webinar just like this on March 2nd. And then once we have a final time and we have that all set up, we'll send out an email to everybody who attended and invite you to that as well. Well, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and we look forward to hearing from you, and have a wonderful time. Bye.